Grandma's backyard takes place in a rundown rural property that was clearly abandoned a long time ago. The first thing you see is a small cave close to the spawn area, covered in strange drawings and symbols that don't seem to match any known language. Inside the cave is a skeleton lying against the wall, which strongly suggests that someone tried to hide there when things in the area went wrong. The fencing around the map is bent, rusted, or completely broken, and the barbed wire looks like it was placed in a hurry and later left to rot. Across the open field sits the old white church. Its boards, cracked windows, and the message, "God abandoned humanity," written on the wall point to a community that collapsed emotionally before it collapsed physically. Behind the church is the small graveyard fenced with black iron bars. The gravestones look untouched for years, and the narrow exits make it feel more like a trap than a resting place. The graffiti of the old Roblox logo on one of the stones hints that the area was once normal and maybe even visited by players before everything decayed. Overall, the map's lore suggests that this backyard wasn't always dangerous. Something happened slowly over time until the people here either gave up, disappeared, or died trying to escape. Temple is the ruined remains of an ancient structure tied to a ruler known as King Tyrantor. The different rooms inside, like the tomb, the vault, and the misspelled library, indicate that this was once part of a larger kingdom with its own culture, storage, and record-keeping. The vault has been emptied, supposedly by a group called Kraken's Bounty, showing that treasure hunters or raiders discovered the place long before players did. The biggest clue about the temple's past is the Draco Boulder, a massive stone that activates after a short period and rolls through the main paths. Its destructive power suggests that it's part of an ancient defense mechanism or curse meant to protect the king's burial site. Even after centuries, the trap still works, which makes the entire temple feel like a structure frozen in time. The temple's overall lore points to a once powerful kingdom that fell apart long ago. All that's left now is an unstable ruin filled with old traps, damaged rooms, and bits of history that survived mostly by accident. Base plate begins as a simple, clean Roblox-style environment that feels harmless. However, after the 90-second mark, the map dramatically shifts when the dam breaks and water floods the entire lower area. This event alone suggests that the map is collapsing or suffering from long-term structural failure. As the flood rises, the map starts displaying obvious signs of corruption. Dummy characters float upward unnaturally. A rotating creature known as the Thing appears off in the distance, and several glowing orbs labeled with developer-like names, Watcher, Creation Man, Onlooker, and others, spawn in the sky. These signs all point toward the idea that the world is glitching, almost as if it's losing connection to its original code. Baseplate is one of the few maps where the environment can kill players on its own through the rising water, which makes it feel less like a physical location and more like a simulation falling apart. The lore behind the map implies that this place was never stable. It simply looked normal until the glitches and structural failures exposed what was really happening underneath. The HQ takes place inside what used to be an official Roblox-style office building. The interior layout shows signs that it was once a busy workplace, with rows of cubicles, scattered office chairs, presentation screens, and meeting areas. Now everything is damaged. Monitors are cracked, the second floor has partially collapsed, and the lights flicker as if the building lost stable power long ago. Outside the HQ, the yard is divided into fenced sections with narrow entrances, making it clear that the building was protected or restricted at some point. Meanwhile, killers can move freely using certain doors that survivors cannot access, suggesting that the building's security systems were designed with different clearance levels. The basement reveals the darkest part of the map's lore. This is where the killers spawn, surrounded by smashed computers, broken panels, and two lifeless Robloxian bodies slumped against the wall. In the corner, a strange can-block creature peers out from a vent, unmoving as if observing everything silently. It does not attack or move, which implies it may be a leftover experiment, a mechanic that never got finished, or an abandoned AI that outlived its purpose. The HQ's overall lore suggests that this facility was once a central hub for development, management, or experimentation, but something catastrophic happened. The mix of corporate decay, broken technology, and hidden creatures implies the building didn't fail peacefully. People were still here when things went wrong, and whatever happened forced everyone to abandon the structure in a hurry. Tundra Trench is set in a frozen landscape where everything feels empty and buried in snow. The map is small and simple, just a bridge, a trench path, a hill, and a cave. Despite the minimal layout, the environment suggests a place that used to serve a purpose, possibly as a snowfield outpost or a frontline passageway before it was deserted. The most notable gameplay lore element is that your footprints remain in the snow but are only visible to you. This implies a kind of psychological isolation, as if each player is navigating the trench alone even when surrounded by others. The bridge can break under certain attacks, showing that the structures here are weak, old, and barely holding together. Snowballs scattered throughout the area sometimes have carved smiling faces on them. These faces make no sense in context and seem out of place, hinting at either an old tradition, a joke left behind by earlier travelers, or something more unsettling about what used to live here. The cave and trench shape create narrow routes that feel like controlled paths rather than natural formations. The lore hints that this was once a functional passage through a snowy region, but it has since frozen over and fallen apart, leaving only cold silence and unstable terrain behind. Teapot Paradise starts as a peaceful floating island environment with bright colors, simple music, and decorative structures like the giant teapot in the center. At first glance, the place feels like an old Roblox classic, cheerful, harmless, and nostalgic. However, midway through the round, everything changes. The skies turn gray, the music distorts, and the giant teapot, known as the Teapot Titan, lifts off and travels toward the X Bridge. When it lands, it deals heavy damage to anyone nearby and physically throws players. This sudden shift from calm to chaotic suggests that the entire island is unstable or controlled by mechanisms far beyond player control. After the Titan moves, rain begins. Drones fly overhead and lightning strikes around the islands. The colorful environment quickly becomes dark and stormy, almost as if the island enters a malfunctioning state or reveals its true nature. The fact that you can predict the storm by watching the Titan pass the floating island implies the events are not random. They follow a set pattern like an automated system. The lore points to an environment designed to look friendly on the surface, but built around a chaotic machine hidden underneath. The bright atmosphere is only temporary, and the map shows that even a cheerful world can transform into something unpredictable once its systems activate. Glass Houses is a crossover map between Die of Death and Forsaken. The map takes place in a valley surrounded by two large mountains with multiple glass domes spread throughout the area. Every wall and window in these domes is fully destructible, which gives the map a constantly changing feel, almost like the entire environment is fragile and temporary. At the center of the map is the Retro Beast, a glowing statue tied to Roblox's older era, showing that the map heavily references older Roblox styling, characters, and assets. However, after the AOSU update, many of the nostalgic elements disappear. Retro signs are replaced with metaverse graffiti. The old blocky textures fade into cleaner modern ones, and the overall atmosphere becomes more polished. This change is intentional. The update symbolizes new Roblox replacing old Roblox, causing nostalgia to slowly fade out of the map. Because the map relies on destructible glass, every ability used in combat reshapes the layout. Over time, the map becomes more open and more dangerous, symbolizing how memories and familiar structures can break down quickly. The lore centers around the theme of nostalgia versus modernization. It shows how easily the past can be shattered, and how quickly something familiar can disappear once change begins.